good afternoon. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. Welcome to your Tuesday editorial analysis. Let me know if I am clearly audible and visible. Then we shall start the session. Alright? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can see me and hear me clearly. Alright, as you know, this editorial analysis is from a linguistic point of view. CAT 2023 is done. So we are now looking at other exams, NMAT is also, well, the different windows that are there. But here you're going to improve your reading, vocabulary and grammar skills regardless of the test you're taking. Right? Whatever exam is coming up, we are prepared for that. It's always a good idea to look at the editorials, improve your GK, improve your reading skills, vocabulary skills and grammar. I generally do 1 or 2 rules of grammar in each of our Tuesday classes. So again, as usual, I'm going to show you the slide for 30 to 40 seconds. Then I will summarize it for you before we move on to the next slide. All right, ready to start? Okay, let's start. 30 seconds for the slide, 40 seconds for the slide. All right, okay. What does the first slide say? Few barometers measure the climate crisis as evocatively as the state of glaciers. Barometers give us an indication of atmospheric pressure. Here it says no barometer is as good as a glacier in telling you about the state of the glaciers, and the state of the glaciers are a measure of the climate crisis. All right. The World Meteorological Organization's recent report, the Global Climate 2011 to 2022, gives a broad view of the planet's response to greenhouse gas emissions. Now, we, through our activities, are emitting a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. What is the planet's response to it? How has the planet responded to it? That is what the Met report gave us. In the section on the state of glacier health, it points out that on average, the world's glaciers thinned by approximately a meter. So you can imagine 1 meter a year. That's alarming. The glacier's thickness has gone down. When compared across decades, there is significant regional variability, but the overall pattern remains the same in all that the glaciers in all the regions of the world are becoming smaller. That is there. Whether some are becoming smaller at a faster rate, some at a slightly slower rate, but commonality, all of them are getting smaller. In fact, some of the reference glaciers which are used for long-term assessments of glacier health have already melted away as the nourishing winter snow is completely melting away during summer. Okay, so what happens? There is glacial melt during summer. But in winter, there is enough added so that overall glacial thickness remains around the same or maybe gets more. But here, because of the glacial melt being more, glaciers are thickening. In Africa, glaciers on the Rwenzori Mountains and Mount Kenya are projected to disappear by 2030. So the melt is greater than the amount that is added through snow every year Because of this, they say by 2040, there will be no glacier on on Rwenzori and Mount Kenya. The report points out to the rapid growth of pro-glacial lakes. So the glaciers are melting and they are forming lakes, and the likelihood of glacial lake outburst floods. The melt of the glaciers, it collects in any cavity, right? That forms a glacial lake. But very soon that water will burst the lake. And then what happens? Floods will happen, posing additional threats to ecosystems and livelihoods. The report singled out how water from glacial melt contributed to one of the decade's worst flooding disasters, and that happened very close to home, the Uttarakhand floods of June 2013. The flood was due to a glacial lake outburst. The fury of a GLOF event was brought home this year by the destruction of the Chungthang Dam in Sikkim after the South Lonak Lake flooded from a melting glacier. Glaciers melt, form the glacial lakes. These glacial lakes can't hold the water anymore. They burst, giving rise to floods, and he has given you examples of the floods. Alright, now read this with me. Earlier this year, a separate report by the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development found that the disappearance of the glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayas was 65% faster in 2010s, in the decade, that is 2010 to 2019. That decade forms the decade of the 2010s. It was faster, much faster in 2010s than it was in the 2000s. At the current rate of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is expected to see temperatures rise by 2.5 to 3 degree by the end of the century, the volume of glaciers is forecast to decline anywhere from 55 to 75%. So what will happen with the increase in global greenhouse gas emissions? Glaciers will melt, so the volume of glaciers on Earth will go down by 55 to 75%. That is alarmingly large. This means sharp reductions in fresh water supply. Glaciers offer us fresh water. It's not ocean water. Glaciers offer us fresh water. This means sharp reduction in fresh water supply in the immediate vicinity of 2050. So what's the author saying? By 2050, the world will face a fresh water crisis. And in the global, in terms of climate calendars, 2050 is like tomorrow. It's immediate. The sensitivity of glacial systems to warning underlies the need for their careful monitoring. Glacial systems are very sensitive to global warming. You need to carefully monitor the size of the glaciers, the amount of glacial melts, because it will cause havoc with us. Despite awareness of the risk posed by Himalayan glaciers, there is no early warning system for the likelihood of glacial lake outburst floods. It poses as great a threat as any other flood or natural disaster, but we don't have an early warning system, something that will allow people to be evacuated from the place so they are saved. Much like warning before cyclones, floods and earthquakes, just like they do in the case of cyclones, floods and earthquakes, authorities must elevate threats from contracting glaciers to the same category of risks. They should do the same thing. They should study the level of water in the glaciers, just like they study cyclones, floods and earthquakes, and forecast for the people the likelihood of a GLOF event, so that there should be an early warning system to save lives and property. Correspondingly, there is a need to make comprehensive risk assessments, map regions of vulnerability, and commission infrastructure development with the highest standards of care. Along with this, the government also has to make risk assessments, proper complete risk assessments. They should have map regions of vulnerability, which areas are more susceptible, more at risk, that is called mapping regions of vulnerability. And any infrastructure development task must be done with great care. All right, so this is what the author is saying. Let's look at the questions. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? That means which one is in line with the author's main point. Glaciers are the lifeline of the world and enable us to counter climate threats. They are the lifeline of the world, maybe, but where are we countering climate threats? When they are in their normal form, yes, but now because of the threat caused by emissions, they have become a source of threat to us. The world faces a great threat from contracting glaciers. Yes, as glaciers sink, contract, become smaller and smaller and smaller, all that ice from the glaciers is melting. First threat is floods. When they melt, the lakes, glacial lakes, will cause floods. That's the first. Second, eventually we will not have fresh water sources. Monitoring greenhouse gas emissions is the need of the hour. Yes, but that's not his main point. We need to devise good risk assessment system. Yes, this also is correct. But his key point with which he will definitely agree is that the world faces a great threat from contracting glaciers. Which one sums up the author's advice on contracting glaciers? Glaciers do not pose the same level of threats as cyclone. If they didn't, why would he ask why would he suggest that we should have an early warning system for glacial lakes just as we do for cyclones? So it goes against his advice. The threats posed by cyclones, floods and earthquakes are more immediate than those posed by melting glaciers. He says no, melting glaciers pose as great a threat and therefore they require the same kind of risk awareness and risk warning system. So 2 is also not correct. There has to be an early warning system in place for contracting glaciers similar to the ones for other natural disasters. Therefore, we know C is the right answer, exactly going with the author's main point. Unlike warnings for cyclones, it is not possible to categorize. Author wouldn't suggest having an early warning system if we can't categorize the risk posed. So this goes exactly against what he's saying. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Got it? All right, question 3. The worst flooding threat in the future is likely to come from which of the following? What did the author say? That glaciers will melt. When they melt, they will fill up the glacial lakes. If there is more melt, then there is a threat of these glacial lakes flooding. So the worst flooding that happened in 2013 or 15 was in 2013 was in Uttarakhand, and many other examples he's given. So he's going to tell you that flooding is going to happen due to GLOF. The GLOF floods are the greatest threat. Heavy unseasonal rain, he has not mentioned that. Overflowing of glacial lakes due to heavy rains, that's the answer. Okay. No, not due to heavy rain, sorry. Overflowing of glacial lakes caused by melting glacial lakes. So the correct answer is C. He hasn't talked about unseasonal or heavy rains. All he's talked about is he's focused on glaciers and the threat they cause. Hello Priyanshi, yes, C is the right answer. Next, there will be a shortage of freshwater supply around 2050 because of what? He has said that very soon we will have a paucity of freshwater supply. What is the reason? Increase in the volume of glaciers, decrease in the volume of glaciers, lack of rains in the catchment areas of the rivers, or none of the above. Is it A, B, C or D? Yes, because of the thinning and disappearing glaciers. And what will they disappear? At the rate of 55 to 75%. B is the correct answer. Fantastic. The very first line of the passage, the author used evocatively, right? Few barometers measure climate crisis as evocatively as the state of glaciers. Few barometers measure climate crisis as evocatively as the state of glaciers. So here, what is the contextual meaning of evocative? Provocative, expressive, invoking, or dampening. What is the contextual meaning of evocative? In what sense has the author used the word evocative? Few barometers measure climate change as evocatively as glaciers. So answer is A, B, C, or D. Provocative, expressive, invoking. Few barometers show, display the state of climate change as well as glacial lakes do. So the meaning is express. Few do it so well. So few do it as expressive or evocatively. Good, Sneha. All right. Please give me the question number along with the good, Priyanshi. All right, what is provocative? Something that incites you, right? Invoke means to call upon somebody. You invoke a spirit, right? Dampen is to make your mood dampen is to decrease, okay? To decrease your enthusiasm, decrease your energy. Then you say it has a dampening effect. You plan to go out somewhere and you see that the sky is cloudy, then your mood, it's a damper. It dampens your mood, okay? All right, next. There is an analogy given. Find an option which is similar, which has a similar relationship as the question words in the analogy. Now, if you know, all the exams apart from CAT have analogies. Triggering is to precipitating. What is the relationship? Both the words have been used in the passage, so have the other words. Many of the other words I have used, okay? So triggering is to precipitating. What is the relationship? You say it out. Triggering means the same as precipitating. Triggering means the opposite of precipitating. Triggering means whatever. And then based on that, you look at an option which has the same relationship. So what is the answer for question 6? Please mention the question number. Please mention the question number and give me the answer. Somebody is great bowling, triggered a collapse. The glacial lakes melting trigger off a series of events. Triggering means to start off. Precipitate means to start off and to intensify. Okay, so they are synonyms. All right. Glacial means relating to ice or cold. Health is different. Contracting and expanding are antonyms. Forecast is the same as predict. So C is the correct answer. Remember, FORE is forward, before, ahead of. Same way PRE, words which start with PRE. Generally, if PRE is a prefix, is something which happens before something else. All right? Okay. Which option expresses the underlined part of the sentence correctly? I've taken a sentence from the passage. The sentence in the passage may be right or wrong. Maybe I have expressed it differently. But you just concentrate on this sentence. A part of the sentence has been underlined. See which option expresses the underlined part correctly. Read the entire sentence first. This is just a matter of habit. It should become a hygiene habit. In many cases, you don't have to read the entire sentence. But if the underlined part is in the second part, generally, it's always good to read the entire sentence first and then decide which is the right option. Despite of awareness of the risks posed by Himalayan glaciers, there is no early warning system for the likelihood of GLOF events. Sneha thinks it's B. I'm waiting for other answers before we move on. Quickly. Despite of is wrong. It is in spite of, but only despite. Next question, this is in spite of. So why is this wrong? Because it is not for the risks. Therefore, yes, the correct answer is B, despite awareness of the risks posed by Himalayan glaciers. There is no early warning system. Despite of is wrong usage. In spite of is correct usage, but the sentence which has in spite of has the wrong preposition. Okay, it's aware of the risks, awareness of the risks. All right, next one. So whenever a sentence has a comparison, there are two things you need to remember. Comparisons have to be logical. Make sure you're comparing two equal things. Okay, you can't compare oranges with something else, chalk and cheese as we say. Make sure the comparisons are parallel and make sure there is no double comparative used. Right? So, the disappearance of glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayas was 65% faster in the 2010s than in the previous decade. Is that correct? That is A as it is, or 65% faster in the 2010s than the previous decade. Is this correct? This correct? Is this correct? This correct? Or is this correct? And same. They are different in different ways, right? So which one is it? Okay, Sneha thinks it's D. Priyanshi, what's your answer? What about others? What are your answers? All right, let's look at each of the sentences. 65% faster. Thank you, Sneha. Okay, thank you. All right, 65% faster in the 2010s. 2010, the year, will not take a the before it because we are talking in 2010. When did you graduate? In 2010. Fine. But when we are talking of the decade, we have to use the, because you're talking of a specific decade, a period. So we have to say the music of the 80s, the 80s, the 90s, the 60s. Therefore, the 2010s. It was faster in the 20s than in the previous decades. Fine. Isme, this is not there. Than the you're comparing a rate to a decade in B. So it's an illogical comparison. Here the article is missing. Here you are using a double comparative. More faster is wrong. More fast is also wrong. Fast has a comparative, that is faster. So between faster and you say more fast means the same thing as faster, true. But when there is an expression faster, why do you use more fast, right? That's wrong. Therefore, it is option A. All right. Okay, that was good. We had 2 grammar questions, a few vocabulary questions, and 4 comprehension questions. Any doubts on what we did? Otherwise, we are almost done with the session. Any doubts in any of the words or anything that has been expressed in the passage or any other doubt that you have? Let me know. Meanwhile, our CAT, if you've taken CAT, our CAT college predictor is there based on your profile. We'll tell you which are the colleges where you're likely to get a seat with your score and your background. Do check that. That has been compiled with a big sample size of most students who've taken it, who have provided us with their details. So know your predicted CAT score and know the college that you're likely to get into. How to practice prepositions and grammar-based questions. Look at various sites which have questions on prepositions, Neha. Look at the common prepositions. I have taken a few YT sessions on grammar, on prepositions in particular. Vikrant has taken a few sessions. Just look at the YT sessions on BYJU'S. But there are generally a lot of exercises available on prepositions. The one that I tell most students is when you're reading a paper, just notice how prepositions are there. If you have a pencil, if you underline the prepositions, in one article you'll find how beautifully prepositions are used. Alright, but there are certain common prepositions that are often misused. So keep track of those which are commonly asked. Look at some of our preposition exercise classes that we've done, sessions that we've done on our YT. I think there is a specific session on prepositions on our app. Watch that as well. Alright. Join our social media channels, all or any one of them, so that you get notifications of all our classes. We've done a lot of grammar sessions, Neha. Please watch them, go through them. Then you will have good practice. Alright. Yeah, I will be back very soon with a session on that, CR, grammar. Vikrant and I will be taking a lot of sessions now to prepare you for that, grammar, CR, even a bit of RC. Alright, our ZAT crash course is coming up, so you will have lots of sessions from us. Alright, stay tuned to our social media channels so you know at what time these sessions are happening and you can attend them. Alright, I'll see you again next Tuesday with another RC practice session at 12 o'clock. Until then, bye-bye.